Hey, today's guide is going to be about movement. Something odd that you might notice about Warframes is that they have a mobility stat in Conclave, which is something that they don't have in PvE. The mobility stat is a modifier to both bullet jumps and rolls, which are generally the fastest way to move around. Some abilities and melee combos can make for improved forms of travel, but those will be talked about more another time. What I'm going to be explaining can apply much more broadly. Movement in Conclave is an important contributor to some major skills, like strafing, dodging, engaging, disengaging, general positioning, and even getting pickups. Your regular jumps, bullet jumps, slides, rolls, wall jumps, and aim glides can all contribute pretty strongly to these, if you know how to use them, especially in conjunction with each other. For example, there's the wall strafe, which is something I just made up the name for. I don't know what players would normally call it. And that is repeatedly bullet jumping to a wall and jumping off of it, and that is an effective way to make yourself hard to hit. I would recommend not doing any single set of movements for very long though, because being predictable makes it easy to prepare for. And that's just an example of the way that you can combine different movements. Telling you how all the different combos can work would take way too long, and I'm probably not the best suited person to do something like that anyway. So I just recommend experimenting. You can try to learn how certain jumps are doable with different levels of mobility. Sometimes you can simply bullet jump to get from A to B, while other times you might need a bullet jump, roll, an aim glide, or some other combination of movements which may or may not be more risky. So you might want to find alternative routes for different combat situations, and so on. An example of an alternative combo could be something like roll, melee mode, and then bullet jump. That's something I do a lot because pressing the melee button while rolling allows you to go into melee mode without having to attack. Being in melee mode allows the mod Sword Alone to activate, which is a mod that there's pretty much no reason not to use. And it gives a boost to both mobility and sprint speed. Coming that way can also allow you to bullet jump as you're going through in the mode going through whatever path you're taking, which is a much more controllable reaction to enemy players. With many weapons, it's faster just to do an air attack than to just do the roll trick, because some weapons, those air attacks can be a momentum boost, and there's quite a few weapons in that category. But like I said, I'll talk more about that stuff another time. Another cool trick is an animation cancel. It's done by aim gliding directly after a bullet jump, which cancels the bullet jump animation, which then allows you to roll more quickly after bullet jumping. Now that's the only animation cancel that I personally know, and there are possibly others which you can ask many other players about, which is another reason why I encourage going to the Conclave Discord. Just a reminder that I really don't know everything, so it's good to take information from more players than just me. Now I'll talk more about the major skills I mentioned before, starting with strafing. Of course, the whole point of strafing is to make yourself hard to hit while you're trying to hit the opponent. Different sorts of strafes are best against certain weapons. For example, against snapping weapons, you want to change directions as quickly and frequently as possible. The same can be said for weapons that need to track too, but you want to be unpredictable and limit your exposure more so. Of course, unpredictability and exposure limiting can help against snapping too. Against projectile weapons, you'll often have the option of dodging. You can see something on target coming towards you, and you have the option to change direction, speed up, or even slow down to evade it. I personally often use slams as a way of dodging, but depending on your melee weapon choice, that has different levels of risk. If you're against AoE, you want to make sure your strafe is fast enough and large enough to make people have to lead their shots. This can sometimes mean straying away from what would generally be considered a strafe and turning it more into an engagement while traveling, which can happen a lot more than just when someone has an especially large AoE. This is often what engaging and disengaging are all about. As much as speed is a factor, the important thing is your chosen pathing, accounting for the gear the other player has, and your own gear. For example, I often use my 0.7 mobility over on Prime, which is on the lower end of mobility, but I managed to make good escapes by preventing people from taking my same path, using my Wolf Sledge, Hallowed Ground, and or Reckoning. The player trying to kill me would best make some sort of effort to remain a threat while avoiding those. A good example is shown by Le Cobra here, where, he has general aggression as a way of strategizing around that. Meaning I don't really get to use these pathway blockers as much as I would like to, or as effectively as I would. The interactions of variable statistics like effective hit points, mobility, time to kill, and effective range are all important to account for, and how you set yourself up. This is going to come down to my last talking point, which is positioning. I can only talk about basic considerations here, because gear choices play so strongly into it, and the topic of gear choice can make for at least 2 videos. With that said, keep in mind the amount of nuance I have to neglect here. For example, a good generalization is to be focused on trapping people into danger when you have lower mobility, and general aggression when your mobility is higher. That general strategy is modified by the ideal range of your weapon. So for example, I'd use my Oberon, Dare Vandal, Axolotl, and Wolf Sledge loadout to trap people into mid to long range engagements. This is done by being in places where I have long sight lines to watch people from, and often even using the abilities to discourage people from coming too close, which is why you often see me with full energy and Reckoning selected. See, that's far from the full strategy though, because like I said, gear choices play so much into it, and so on. I'll have to talk about that stuff in another video. But you should get the basics of what you should be looking to do. So whether you're trying to trap people or just be generally aggressive towards them, you'll have to find ways to do that using the gear that you choose. And if you want to hear my input about specific gear choices and such, stay tuned for some of my future videos, because there will be multiple videos about that. So that is all for now, and I'll talk to you all later.